Hi, everyone. We'll give everyone a moment to hop on and we will get started here shortly. Thank you for joining today's webinar. Feel free to chat in the chat box, UI box here where you're calling in from. It's always great to see. I am currently calling in from sunny Atlanta, Georgia today. A lot of pollen, but beautiful sunshine. Hope the same for you all, at least the sunshine part.
Sun is definitely shining in Belgium where you always do. You can
Excellent.
you can smell the spring coming in.
We'll give everyone just a few more moments and then we'll get started. All right. We will go ahead and dive in. This session will be recorded as well for those who cannot attend live. The primary topic and theme for today's webinar is centered around self-service analytics. This webinar is also to highlight not only what we see as a major product release that supports this theme and topic, but also we view this as a big evolutionary next step for how users can create and work with their data. I also add that please feel free to enter in your questions and feedback in the chat box to the right. We'll have a dedicated Q&A section towards the end of our presentation to address any and all questions. There also is a dedicated Q&A chat box, so if possible, we ask that you put your questions in that chat box, but either way, we will ensure that your questions are addressed. Quick introductions. My name is Weston Bryant. I am a Senior Customer Success Manager here at Lesmo. And joining me as my co-host is one of our excellent product managers, Yannick.
Hey, Weston. Happy to be here. Thanks for the intro.
All right. Well, before we kick off for today's topic, quick poll for the audience. Where do your users struggle most to access insights today? You should see a poll box pop up. Please submit your answers and we will review the results here shortly. Again, feel free to answer our poll question. We'll give a few more seconds and then happy to review the results before we dive into today's topic. All right, last call to submit. Okay, so where do your users struggle most to access insights today? It looks like the number one answer is holding at 60% as the winner. They have data, but can't slice and dice it easily. Second answer came with tied with all the above. They need insights inside their daily workflows. And the current setup is too complex for non-technical users. Surprisingly, it's 0%. So we must have a lot of savvy data users out there.
Thanks, Weston, for reading those poll results. That nicely ties into the topic of today. We see with the poll result that for 60%, the problem is that they cannot slice and dice the data like they want to. And that's actually something we've been hearing more and more. There's embedded dashboards in a product, but just embedded dashboards don't solve everything. So let me start with something that most of you probably recognize. You've built a few dashboards and you've shipped them to your users embedded in your application. But still, your email inbox looks like this. For example, can I see this broken down by region? Or can you change this to a bar chart? Or Can you export this with the last quarter included? Those are probably some kind of messages that you've heard before about your embedded dashboards. The instinct here is to probably treat those as feature requests, add a filter here, add some export there, but that's not really the underlying cause here. What your users are probably telling you is, I have a question, I have some data, but your dashboard that you embedded doesn't let me ask it. And that's the real gap with just embedded dashboards. Dashboards are great for showing users what you decided they should see. But the moment that a user wants to go one step further, for example, different breakdown or different time range, they hit a wall. And they basically need to send an email to you or a support ticket about, hey, I want to see this insight. So the question here really becomes, how can you close that gap without building a custom analytics tool from scratch? And that's what we're going to look at today in this webinar. So we see a sort of strategic shift happening from just embedded view-only dashboards towards more self-discovery, self-service, and empowering users with the tool to do that right in your product. Now let's talk about what that looks like, and more importantly, what it means for your product and for your business. On the left, you have the model that most of us probably started with. So you build some dashboards and you decide what goes on them, and your users view what you have created. If they need something different, they'll come to you through a support ticket. That maybe works when you have 10 customers, but if you have 1,000 customers, that just doesn't scale. You become a kind of dashboard factory for your users and try to serve every of their requests. On the right side is more a new model where we see things heading towards. Your users are able to create their own views and dashboards, and they can ask questions in plain language instead of having to learn how your filter menus or dashboards work. They're able to build the reports and charts that they need inside your product themselves without needing to file a ticket with your support team. This doesn't mean you just hand users a blank canvas and hope for the best. That's probably just adding chaos into it. The shift is more about giving users the right level of control for their skill level. Some users maybe need to tweak just a single filter, or other users are able to build a chart completely from scratch. The point is that your product should support both instead of locking everyone into the same static view. The key line here is what I keep really coming back to. When your users come to a dashboard, they probably already know the questions that they have and they want to discover in the data. So they're not waiting for more dashboards. They're waiting for your product to empower them to let them ask those questions that they have. Before we get into specific product details, I want to spend a moment on why self-service matters for your business and not just for your users. I would say there are three things that self-service changes. First of all, the support loads on your team. Think about those emails that we just talked about. Every time a user can answer their own question or build their own chart, that's a report less that your team doesn't have to build. For some customers, that means dozens of fewer custom report requests per month. So that's real time you get back for your products and for your data teams. The second one is stickiness. We know that if users build their own charts, build their own views, it kind of empowers them. They've invested time in your product and they've invested time in creating the insight that they need. So that dashboard or report isn't generic at that point anymore and really fits their needs. And because they've invested time there, they keep coming back to it to check it or maybe to tweak it again. And that's a completely different engagement pattern than someone just viewing a dashboard that you build for them and maybe is not hitting all the needs that that user has. So we see that users that are able to create their own content, create their own reports, come back more often and are stickier users. And third, revenue. So self-service is probably one of the most natural upgrade triggers in SaaS. You can put that behind the premium tier. For example, your base tier shows just some static dashboards, and your premium tier actually lets users explore, build those dashboards and reports themselves, what they need. So you're giving the power users what they're asking for, tools to build their own charts and dashboards. For many of our customers, this is the feature that really turns analytics from a cost center into more a monetization force for their own product. So when we're talking about self-service today, we're not just talking about a better user experience, we're really talking about a business model shift for your product as well. Let me show you what we're launching today to make this real and make self-service possible in your products. So we're launching two things today that make adding self-service easier and more personalized than ever. On the left side, we have our embedded dashboard editor, and some of you already know and use this probably. It's a low-code way of giving your users full editing power inside of your product. And so what's new today there is a upgraded AI layer where your users can easily create and edit charts by just using natural language, describing the chart and insight they need instead of having to configure everything manually from scratch. And this is really a major upgrade to the existing embedded editor products, where we saw that some users weren't always able to find the right settings. Now they can just stay focused in one chat interface and just describe what they need from their charts or dashboards. So that's a really important improvement. On the right side, we have something completely new. We're calling it composable analytics, and this is a fundamentally different approach compared to embedding a complete editor. So instead of embedding this complete editor, you are able to pick individual building blocks. Let's say a data picker, a filter panel, an AI chat component, some components to tweak the settings of a chart. And you're able to take all of these single components and assemble them into an experience that's fully yours. So your layout, your UX patterns, your level of complexity that you want to offer to your users. And this is really a game changer. It allows you to think deeply about how analytics should surface in your products, what experience your users need from analytics, and to really fine-tune that to your specific product, to almost make it feel like a native experience within your product. So think of these two, the embedded dashboard editor and composable analytics, as points on a spectrum. So the embedded editor gets you to self-service very fast with very minimal development effort. It's literally just a few lines of code. Composable analytics, on the other hand, gives you full control over the experience, where you're able to select and combine the components yourself. So which of those two you need depends a bit on how much of the UX you really want to own. But in both cases, it's the same powerful Luzgo analytics engine underneath powering all of it. So we're going to do a deep dive on both of these cases. Let's start with the embedded dashboard editor.
Thanks, Yannick. So as Yannick has mentioned, before we jump into showcasing the demo on what's new regarding these two functionalities and features, wanted to give a quick shout out to one of my clients that has done an amazing job implementing our embedded dashboard editor, along with a quick overview to further highlight this great functionality. The embedded dashboard editor are what you may hear us refer to as EDE. Again, as Yannick has just said, not only empowers your viewers to interact and view your embedded dashboards, but also gives them the permission and access via an EDE user interface on those embedded graphs to be able to manipulate, create, and design for their own personal unique needs. To further illustrate this functionality, I'd like to briefly highlight one of my clients, Cultura Technologies. As with many organizations evaluating their analytic product, Cultura Technologies was navigating a range of opportunities when they first partnered with us. Data was distributed across multiple systems, and end users often relied on established processes such as pulling from Excel, tapping on internal IT resources, or relying on end-of-month reporting, all of which, as you may know, impacts the speed of which insights and decisions can be made. I'm happy to share that through the hard work and partnering with us and our professional services team, we worked with their product and innovations team to create their new scalable and monetized analytics product called Insights. This created a single source of truth for their end users by offering up to 15 standardized different dashboards, each of which, to further highlight, allows the end users to modify or create using our embedded dashboard editor. Many end users feel overwhelmed when given designer level privileges when first starting from scratch. So instead, we recommend implementing a create a variant or create a copy button workflow like Cultura Technologies did. This allows the end users to make a copy of the standardized reporting you have created. Then, based on the level of design permissions you have set, they can leverage the EDE to delete, change, or create their own visualizations, even going all the way to connect their own data source should you permit them. This creates a powerful self-service analytics model that significantly reduces the amount of support needed for your users. All this came together to form a simple, flat pricing model supporting a scalable and self-service driven monetized analytics product. Expectations for fast, meaningful insights from everyday analytics have never been higher. Whether you're an existing client of ours or evaluating our services, we recommend going beyond simply embedding your dashboards. Instead, empower your users to design and create their own data visualizations based on their own unique needs. Now, I'm excited to pass it back over to Yannick to showcase how we made this process even easier with this past week's product release with our newly AI enhanced EDE.
Thanks, Westin. Let's take a look at how that really looks like in practice indeed. So quickly to recap before I dive into the demo, the embedded dashboard editor is just a low-code, powerful dashboard editor that you can embed in just a few lines inside of your product. Your users are then able to create and edit dashboards directly in the screen without having to leave your application. And so what we're launching today, there is a new natural language layer that enables users to easily create charts and edit them all in the same chat window. So users are able to just describe what they want to see and the editor builds it for them. Let's take a look at how that works. So this is how the embedded editor looks like when you embed it in your product. The user is able to click the Add Item button at the top, select some data sets, type the prompt, the chart they want to see, and the system starts building it on the right side, as you can see. You see the steps that the system is taking, and you can just continue tweaking after the result, just in natural language to tweak the result even further. In this case, we're asking to put a filter on the chart and to tweak an option of the chart to show values in the bars. You see here, you can validate in UI that the filter was put there. You can just tweak the options manually. And obviously, you're not required to use this AI system. You can just create charts manually like you're used to as well. So this is really a very powerful product where in just a few lines of code, you're able to embed this full dashboard editor in your product where users can describe the charts that they need and they get built for them. We've heard some feedback in the past that sometimes this screen can be a little overwhelming for non-technical users. And we see that really with this new natural language layer, this is really a great improvement where they don't fully need to understand the data model of the data sets. They don't need to understand all settings and configurations. They can just go to the chat window to describe what they need and see the charts being built for them. So that's really a huge unlock. So we've just seen what the embedded dashboard editor can do. And for many of you, that's going to be the right answer. Embed it with a few lines of code, turn on the AI prompting, and your users have self-serve within a few weeks in your products. And it's really a very powerful product that I really love. But over the past year, we've heard a few conversations that sounded a bit different or some feedback. I want to read a few of them to you here because some of you will probably recognize yourselves in there. So for example, I want to embed analytics inside of an existing workflow instead of a separate page. We hear this one from teams where analytics is really part of a larger feature and not just a standalone section. Or my users just want to pick a metric and choose a chart. A full editor is overkill for them. As I said, this comes up with a lot of products that serve non-technical end users. They need simplicity. They don't always need the full power here. Or for example, I want analytics in my product, but it should really look and feel like my product. And this is the branding and UX control question. The editor is customizable, but at the end of the day, it's still our user interface that you're embedding in your application. One we've been hearing more and more is we're building for mobile, and a desktop dashboard editor doesn't work on a mobile screen. So it's a different form factor with different interaction and UX patterns needed for that. And all of these are valid concerns. They all point to the same underlying need from those users. You want more control over how analytics show up in your product. You don't need less analytics, you need more ownership about the experience around it. And that's exactly why we built what we're launching today. And we're calling that composable analytics. So here's the idea. Instead of embedding a complete editor into your product, what if you could pick the individual building blocks and just put them together yourself? Almost a bit like Lego or when you assemble something from IKEA. So that's what composable analytics is. On the right, you can see a screenshot of the 10 individual components that we've launched today as part of this launch. For example, a data field panel that lists all of the columns and metrics of a certain data set, drop zones for charts, or drop-down pickers for configuring which data a chart shows, an options editor for configuring the charts, a screen to build filters, and then a dashboard grid to organize and resize multiple charts in. And each of those components is a standalone web component. So your developers can import the ones they need, place them wherever you need them in your UI, and then wire them together to have a fully functioning self-serve product. And the analytics logic, the querying of the data sets, the configuration, the rendering of the charts, all of that is handled by Lusmo. So that's something you don't need to worry about. You just need to think about how you want to surface the design and the user experience of the analytics here. So everything your users see and interact here is up to you to design and have full control over. So we're calling the underlying library the Analytics Components Kit, and you'll find it on NPM to download. It works with every front-end framework, so React, Angular, or just plain HTML. But the core concept is what really matters here. The composable analytics means that you own the experience and we do the heavy lifting underneath. For example, querying the charts. I want to quickly break down why that matters in practice, the composable analytics. So there's 3 things I want to highlight here. First, you control the user experience. This isn't just a big pre-built screen you embed. It's really you decide the layout. Do I want a side panel? Do I want a full page? Do I want a modal? Whatever fits your product. You choose which components to include and where they go. The result feels like a feature built in-house by your own team that closely matches your own product. The second thing to highlight here is that it's fully on brand, so every component inherits your design system through CSS variables. Colors, typography, spacing, all of it maps to your look and feel of your product. Your users won't see a Lusmo UI inside your product. They'll see something that very closely looks like your product. And that's really a big strength. And then third one, that's maybe the one I'm most excited about personally, tunable complexity. So we know that different users in different products have different complexity tolerances. And with these components, you can really choose how much power to expose to your users. Maybe one kind of user gets a simple dropdown to pick a metric, and see a chart. Another user that's a bit more technical gets a full drag and drop experience with some filters, some options. So it's the same component, it's the same library, but just a different configuration, and you have the full power to decide over how to expose that. So you match the experience to the user and not the other way around. And that's really the core promise here. It's the same analytics engine as the embedded dashboard editor, but instead of a pre-built experience, you get the parts to build exactly what your product needs. So that's huge. Okay, we have a bunch of building blocks, but what products can I actually build with this if you put all of them together? Let me walk you through a few examples that we've built here. Maybe the most straightforward one is a report builder with drag and drop fields. So we have, that's the top right one here, we have some data fields on the left, we have a chart in the center that you can build. This is maybe the closest to what embedded dashboard editor can give you. You have an option panel on the right, but the difference here is that every piece of this layout is yours to tweak and to position in the editor. So you decide what goes where, what is visible, and what is hidden for your users. So as we mentioned, more and more teams are building for mobile. We can see that in the example on the bottom left here. Instead of drag and drop, which doesn't really work well on a phone, you swap in the drag and drop for drop-down pickers. So you can directly select data fields to map them to charts. Same components, same data, but a completely different interaction pattern meant specifically for mobile. You're not forcing a desktop UI on a small screen, you're really redesigning the experience for mobile users with these components. The third example I want to highlight is on the bottom right here. This is what we're calling a chart library pattern. So your users don't need to build the charts fully from scratch. Instead, they get to pick pre-built charts that you build for them and you expose to them. They can pick from those and add them to the dashboard directly. That's really powerful for very non-technical users that do not want to configure stuff at all. So you just define some metrics for them that you know they're interested in. You put them in that library and they can browse that and just add that to the dashboard. Maybe resize it, arrange the dashboard, but nothing more than that. And then finally in the center, natural language, which we discussed before. So you wire in an AI chat component and your users can describe what they want to see. The chart gets created and added to the dashboards. This is the same AI engine that powers the embedded dashboard editor, but it's embedded in your own UI with flexibility on where to position it in your user experience. So you see these are all very different looking products with themed differently. And so everything of these components is fully themable through CSS variables. It fully inherits your design system, and it's also translatable to 5 languages. So you have full control over the complexity. You can fully tweak the look and feel of these components to match your brand, to match your color system, your design system. And you have full control over the complexity and the power that each user gets. Now, I want to show you this in a full demo of an example environment that we built. So again, this starts with the prompting. So the user describes the chart they want to see. Step by step, the chart is being built, and you immediately see the result on the right. If they want, the user can tweak it in the builder. They can switch some settings. If they want, they can add some more data on the chart or tweak the data by drag and dropping, which we're doing here. They can quickly change the chart type from, for example, bar chart to a column chart if they prefer that. And then they just click the Add to Dashboard button. And then it's added to the dashboard on the bottom, which is a grid. You can resize and drag the charts to a different position in the grid. And then they can decide to save the dashboard, for example. But the real power here is that each of these components are the separate composable components that we discussed, arranged in a very specific way in this example application. This is just one way to configure the component, the way that we decided to build this demo. But you see the components perfectly match the design system and the branding of the rest of the full application. And that's the real power here. So you have full control over the design and also the user experience of how you arrange those components. It's maybe difficult to show how customizable this all is in just one demo application. So I want to quickly walk you through some more screenshots of other examples that we built with these components. For example, here we have a CFO planning cockpit. where you can do scenario analysis, and users can add or hide different charts from the right, and then tweak that in the grid and change the chart types. So this is a very particular look and feel for this specific application. The next one we have is a sort of Maps Studio, where you have a big map in the center. You can visualize coordinates on that one, and then you can actually draw a filter, an area on the chart that you can use to analyze specific data points inside of that area, which are then visualized by specific charts on the right side. So this is really a very particular workflow that is possible with these composable analytics. Again, a very different one is the DevOps Command Center, built completely in the Hacker team style, just to show how extremely customizable these components are. So there's a few pre-built charts that users can tweak with simple buttons. And in the center, there's a sort of terminal chat that users can use to build charts with AI. And then again, with the composable components, they can tweak the result of what is being built. Again, very different look and feel of the previous one, but built on the same components. And lastly, we have a sort of guided chart builder. You can almost see it as a wizard where users are walked through each step to build a chart step by step. So first they pick data, then they pick the chart type, which you can see in this screen. In the next step, they can add some filters or tweak options, and then finally add that chart to the dashboard. That's again a very different way and user experience of offering self-serve to your users. So with these few examples already, you can see that you can surface analytics and self-service analytics in very different ways to really match the expectations that your users have and to match your specific product user experience. So that is extremely flexible and powerful. All right, so we covered a lot of ground already. Before we open the floor to some questions, I want to do a quick recap of what we went through today. So we start with a simple poll and observation, basically. You ship dashboards, but your users keep asking for more or for tweaks. Different chart types, different breakdowns. That is just, you cannot serve all of that with just one view-only dashboards. There are signals that your users want to explore their data and not just look at a pre-built static dashboards. Then we talked about what self-service unlocks for your business. So it reduces support load, fewer custom report requests hitting your team. It makes your product stickier because the users who build their own reports are invested in your product. They spend time in it. And it creates a natural monetization path. Self-service is exactly the kind of capability that users will want to pay for. And then we showed you two ways to make it happen with Luzmo. The embedded dashboard editor is the fastest path. It's very low code. You embed it with a few lines and your users are up and running almost instantly. Composable analytics that we launched today is really the very flexible path. Your team picks the components, the exact experience they need, and they design the experience around that. They use the components that they need, and they ship something that is fully native to your products. You don't have to choose one of these forever. So some of you will start with the embedded dashboard editor maybe, and after a bit of time, move to the composable approach as you see your needs evolve. Some of you will use both for different parts of your product, so that's all up to you. The point is that Luzmo now gives you the full spectrum of capabilities with our composable analytics launch of today. So we're really happy with that launch. All right. Westin, shall we open the floor to some questions?
Thanks, Yannick. Yes, please, if you have not already, we'll address the questions already in the comment box, but also feel free to post your questions or feedback now as well. So I believe first question, Yannick mentions that the embedded dashboard editor is low code. Could you please elaborate on who benefits more from that low code? Is it the BI team or the end user? How does that compare to composable analytics?
Yeah, good question. It's definitely the BI team that benefits from that low code. It's just a few lines to get up and running with that embedded dashboard editor in your product. So that is extremely easy to set up. How does that compare to the composable analytics? It's a bit more code because you have those, instead of one big component, you have multiple smaller components that you connect with each other. But I wouldn't say it's a huge step up. Some of these screenshots and demos that I showed you were actually built by our internal teams that are non-technical. And they built that, for example, completely on top of AI agents building the code for them. So we see that the components are so easy to use that even non-technical users can build with the components to get a really good result. So it's not like the jump from low code with embedded dashboard editor to composable analytics is very huge in terms of code. It's just connecting those separate components together, which is slightly more. I hope that answers your question.
Great. And we have a couple from Joe France. So we're basically speaking dashboards into existence with plain English or natural language by prompting in the editor, correct?
Correct. Correct. So instead of your users or yourself even having to know every field of every data set, every possible chart of Luzmo, every configuration you can do, you can just do all of that in one chat window to stay in the flow and build every chart through natural language, indeed.
Excellent. Follow up from Andrew. Apart from allowing end users to create chart visualizations via natural language, how can the BI Lesmo Savvy team benefit from this feature? Does it provide time savings, even if I know my way around the Lesmo app?
Are you speaking about the embedded dashboard editor in this case?
I believe so.
Okay, I'll assume that. Um, yeah, it's just a way to more quickly build charts. I found myself using it while I know my way, obviously, around the Luzmo product very well, because it's just less switching back and forth between different screens. You can just stay in the flow of the chat and build a chart step by step instead of clicking on settings and then on data and then adding a new chart. So it's a really relaxed and focused experience to be able to build all that through the natural language layer. So that's something that not only the users using that embedded in your product benefit from, but also yourself if you're building dashboards or charts that you would want to embed for your users later on. So everyone benefits from this feature.
Okay. And then if you expose the full builder, then I guess we need to think about naming of database items more as they are now exposed to users compared to today, where they're only internally for devs.
Indeed. So you'll need to tweak the metadata of your columns of your data sets to be human readable. But there's a few tools that we actually have in the Luzmo product to help you with that. We have something called metadata suggestions, and it looks at your full data set, and it proposes naming changes to be human readable. And important, it also provides a way to have automatic descriptions of your columns. So it looks at your data sets and then generates automatically descriptions for your columns that are relevant for your data. And this is actually very important because having good and clear metadata for your columns, like names and descriptions, it not only benefits your users, but it also benefits the AI systems that will work with your data sets to create those charts. So you can see it as a form of almost context engineering, providing the correct metadata for the AI systems to generate correct charts and answers based on your data. So that's something that benefits for everyone. But yes, your users will definitely love human readable column names and fields.
Thanks, Yannick. Does anyone else have any other questions? All right. Well, let's review next steps. Thank you all for your time before you hop off today. We encourage you to please give this a shot and try yourself. We have a demo app where you can try out the new analytics component kit and many of these features and functionalities described today. I also encourage you to review our example gallery. Our team has uh, worked hard to create multiple examples to best illustrate how you can put this into use for your own specific use case and needs. And then, of course, please reach out to your appropriate contact, whether it be the support team, your aligned CSM, or our sales team, if you're interested and have any follow up questions from today's webinar. Thank you all for your time. And we look forward to working with you and very excited about this week's release.
Thanks, everyone. It was great having you.